project a student made a few years ago. It's a handcrafted fly fishing net. This is alder and cherry. It's a beautiful net. I love this project. I like every student to do this project. However, there are a couple of tricky parts to it. One is cutting this groove around the outside here and then sewing in the net. And the problem is they built this beautiful frame, and when they start to do this, that's actually when the thing kind of goes bad. However, I've actually got the coolest thing here. I just ran into this on the internet. It's a woodworking guide from MeasureNet. So this is all a free PDF, and you could get this at measurenet.com or measurefish.com. And I called them up, I talked to them, they're great guys out in Montana, big fly fishermen. They invented this new net. It's called the MeasureNet. You can see it there, and it has measurements, so when you land a fish, you automatically measure it. But why it's going to be so cool for us in the high school wood shop is this feature, which I didn't even think of, is it has a zip-on net. So what you could do here is you actually just you build your frame. You don't have to cut that groove or put the holes in it. You just build a beautiful frame, and then you zip your net on there, and then it's good to go. So I'm really excited about this project. I'm going to walk you through it right now. This is the first time going through it, following these guys' directions, but I think this is going to work really well. I ordered MDF jig from them as well. This is actually 1-inch MDF. Be easy to cut yourself on a CNC router, but I'm going to try and just follow their exact guidelines and use this and use your net. So I ordered medium nets. I'm going through their guide right here. Medium nets. And on a medium it says 3 strips, 1/8 inch thick. So I'm using California black walnut, cut right here in California. And I'm going to cut 3 1/8 inch strips out of this. And then I have a PVC tube here. On this PVC tube, I cut it at 60, actually a little longer than 60, just a glued-in stopper on this end, and just like a little rubber cap here. I'm going to fill this up with water, and then put my strips in here and let them soak overnight. I actually have my tube sitting in the bucket right there. Put all these strips in here. Let me go over how I'm going to make the handle. So this is a jig for the net. And then here's a piece of black walnut I'm going to make the handle out of. And then I'm going to put this thing on here so that it's square. Now that I have that contour trace right there pretty symmetrically, really my big goal here is to stay symmetrical. Off, I'm going to flip it this way and trace it. I am giving up a little bit in my curve, so I'm going to offset it in just a hair. I'll trace that. It's a Sharpie too. I'd use a pencil, not a Sharpie. So there's my handle. It looks like it's actually going to be a pretty good fit. Now that I have that shape and I like it, up on the jig, I'm going to kind of figure out how I want to trim this off. Maybe kind of like that. So I'm just going to trace that down. So I'm just going to trim those off on the bandsaw, and it should fit right on there perfectly. Again, we're working on the fly fishing net. The nets are from measurenet.com. And then what I did last night is I cut 3 strips, 60 inches long at 1/8 inch wide. And then this is just a PVC tube full of water. Probably 12 hours is enough. And then here's a fish that I ordered with the nets. And then they should just gently bend right around here. That's why I always cut more than 3. So the plan here the plan here is you put them on the fixture and then they dry to this shape, and then when they're completely dry, then you take them back apart and they dry into this shape and they kind of form to this, and then you go back and glue them together. We had those fails with that walnut, and it's really more about grain layout than anything else. So I'm going to try a piece of alder this time, and I want to show you something when I cut this alder. It all looks like really nice grain. I don't know if you can see it there. It all looks like a really nice flat grain pattern. But I'm going to run a strip on this side, and then I'm going to run a strip on this side, and I'll show you the difference between the two. I'm going to turn the board over this way and rip the strip off in here. My first 1/8" strip is off of this board right here on this side, right? Really clean. My second 1/8" strip is off of this side. It doesn't look like much of a knot, but that grain's really all twisty right there. And watch this. So this is that grain that's a little twisty. Watch it as I bring it together. It breaks right at that spot. You see how quick it broke? Now here's the one from the other side of the board. These are dry, but watch how far this will go. It'll almost go the whole distance without being wet. So my point is grain layout is imperative. So part of the reason why those walnut strips broke was I didn't really select the best board. There were just a slight little bit of twirly grain, and that's where they broke. So when you're looking at this project, make sure you get really good quality grain in your strips of wood. So I'm going to drop these in there, and hopefully these will work a lot better. I did try this morning with a bunch of black walnut strips. I actually ended up breaking them. I don't actually think it's the difference between the black walnut and the alder. I think it's actually the difference in the quality of the grain. I kind of want to pull these in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these in, and I'm going to let them dry overnight. And then once they dry, they're going to hold this shape. And then once they hold this shape, then I'm going to take them all back apart and then glue laminate them back over the jig again. But that actually worked pretty well. I did cut a lot for fear that they might break. Oh wow. I'm tempted to take that walnut one from this morning and put it inside there, but I think there's a couple weak spots in there. So I think probably the best way to do this is kind of work them right down onto the. So here are the alder boards that got glued up. They got soaked. They only got soaked for about 6 hours, even less than that. Pulled out, clamped on the jig right here. I handmade this black walnut handle, and I just kind of made it to get a feel for what I kind of like it to look like. And then I took this into the classroom, and then I measured off of this to get my CNC drawing done. So one thing I didn't like on this handle was that as you pull these things up, you know, it's an inflection point in math, you know, from concave to convex. And it was really hard to suck it up there. The other thing I do too when I draw it in Mastercam is I only draw half of it, and then I draw a center line and I reflect it over there. This is probably the most important part of all of it, is that it's symmetrical. This is a radius on a 3-inch circle right here, and I think it should work pretty well. So it's alder just like these. I have that plan. I think it's going to glue up really nicely. I think one thing that's really important on this glue up, and it might not even be a bad idea to put a little bit of paper towel around the outside of this, or tape or something, but if we get any glue at all from the inside of this alder strip onto this MDF, I don't think you'll be able to get it off. I think you'll probably have to start over again. So I don't think I'll put paper towel on here, but I am really conscientious to get a full layer of glue on it. Cool. The glue, I'm squeezing out of this one as I am the first one. And, you know, this thing would probably work a little bit better if we actually attach this down to another piece of MDF. So this is a pretty gentle squeeze on this squeeze clamp, and then I'm trying to make them all flush down. And then I'm going to start from the top and then work my way down. I'm going to start here. That's pretty good right there, Leo. I'm clamping it this morning. As you saw, I had a bunch of clamps on here. It glued up overnight. This comes right off of the fixture. Really, one of the keys in this glue up, I think I glued it up in block 4 yesterday, was a really key part is to make sure you do not get any glue between this inside coat of alder and the fixture. But I don't know if there would be any way to get it off without breaking the alder. So it feels pretty good. Here's the CNC aldered handle inside of it. Here is that kind of prototype I did with the bandsaw to make sure it felt nice. And then now really the only thing I need to do is run it through the drum sander and get a flat plane here, and then a flat plane here. Then I'm going to run a round over, a really minimal round over on the outside, and cross cut it here. I actually kind of like the feel and Alright, so here it is. It's all done. I love this net frame, tree transformation logo in there. I'm going to put a few more coats of polyurethane on here, but this is kind of the coolest part from the Measure Net company, or Measure Fish. You can get these nets from measurenet.com. They're super cool, so when your fish drops in there, you can measure it automatically. You just see where the 2 numbers on each side and add those together, and that's the length of the fish. But the other beautiful thing about these nets is they just actually drop into your net frame, and then you just zip them on. So this thing just goes over, zips right up and around. Doesn't get easier than that. Huh? How about that? I got one!